just curious, how can people learn about Camp New Providence outside of Marvin Historical Society?
Again, there is a scarcity of information where we can find that. But funny enough, we have found this on an old ABC cartoon from the 1990s called Liberty Kids. And there's an episode called The Conflict in the South. Google it on YouTube. You can find the full episode.
Episode 134.
Episode 134 that visually describes and talks about Nathanael Greene needing to get supplies. There's pictures of the encampment. They talk about how there's nothing but squirrels to eat in their stew, and that there's a sickness going around and injuries.
You are listening to Historyman, the platform for historians, curators, and authors to tell their stories of the American Revolution. Walk in the footsteps of heroes and proclaim freedom reigns. On today's episode, I am very excited to have with us Amanda Richards, the co-founder of the Marvin Historical Society, and Lauren Thomas, a resident and member of that Marvin Historical Society. So welcome, ladies.
Hi there. Thanks for having us.
Well, Marvin, North Carolina. Y'all have got me excited about the history that y'all have found from this little community on the outskirts of Waxhaw, North Carolina.
Marvin was not called Marvin at the time during the Revolutionary War.
Okay.
The surrounding area of Marvin was a part of the Mecklenburg County before it was Union County as it is known now, but it was more so known as the Lower Providence area due to Providence Presbyterian Church being nearby, near the Camden-Salisbury Road. So there's more of a connection there, and nearby 6 Mile Creek. It's now called Marvin. Do you want to share?
So Marvin originated about 150 years ago. The previous name was Porteth. And
spell that?
Porteth, Poortith. And it was Robert Burns' poem that they wanted to name the town Marvin. But Morven, North Carolina, had already been chosen, and they were needing a post office. So the citizens came around and said, well, we'll name the post office Porteth. But it more so was known as Marvin due to a circuit rider Methodist preacher named Enoch Marvin, who apparently really spurred them on back in the 1800s. So
very nice. Okay.
So Marvin is just south of Charlotte, north of Waxhaw, and it is really...
It wasn't incorporated.
No, it was not incorporated. It was mainly farmlands. There was gin, there was cotton, tobacco, but it was really located near Camp New Providence, which is off of today's Providence Road, as well as 6 Mile Creek. And that area hosted 13 to 2,600 troops that would go and encamp there for strategic planning and logistics before making the decisive battle plans for Cowpens, for instance.
Okay.
That's right.
So when was
That was the encampment time. There was a
time.
A duration of time for about 2 to 3 months between the Battle of Kings Mountain and the Battle of Cowpens, between October to December 1780. These soldiers that, again, we see numbers of 1,300 to 2,600. We even heard one of our local historians, J.P. Houston, has mentioned 3,000. So it was a large encampment of soldiers who needed provisions. We're reading about how Nathanael Greene was, advocating for additional supplies, going into the farmlands of the Waxhaw community and the richness. So it brought up the richness of the farms in the area. So, we see our community that we now know as Marvin to be almost like a huddle spot between two decisive, victorious battles in the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, it was a mixture between North Carolina militia and Continental, And that area had a lot of the farmers, helping the soldiers with feeding and replenishing.
So this is where Nathanael Greene came to after taking over for Gates after Kings Mountain. He came here and then sent Daniel Morgan
That's
over towards Cowpens.
Yes, that's our understanding. Is that there's a lot of
Cornwallis
pivotal strategies
is at
happening.
Winsboro, South Carolina.
That's right. So a lot of pivotal moments happened, just like a huddle.
Yeah.
I mean, again, we go back to the idea of it was like a huddle, a team huddle, where Horatio Gates is no longer the commander. It's Nathanael Greene. For 5 days, Camp New Providence was the headquarters of the Continental Army, the southern campaign here. So just a lot of interesting things for our community, modern day, to take a lot of pride in is that strength was garnered and harnessed here. There was a restoration component of this encampment. We didn't have any battles in our community that we understand, so it doesn't get a lot of the.
It was a critical turning point for the war. Just
critical time.
Yeah, it was critical time.
I mean, when you think about Kings Mountain and the Over the Mountain men and the people from South Carolina and North Carolina all converging on Kings Mountain, and then they have all of these prisoners that they have to take back over into Virginia, and a lot of them disappeared. Right.
Yeah.
So they disappeared on that walk. They escaped or whatever. Some of them went back to 96 and that sort of thing. But you're talking about all of a sudden the British had not won. And then the left wing of the British Army had disappeared when Ferguson lost at Kings Mountain. Nathanael Greene rejuvenated. All these patriots are rejuvenated here, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, it allowed them for recovery.
Yeah, it gave them recovery, it gave them a restoration, it gave them a time to just sink in what just happened.
Right.
That to me, as a human being who, that's something I think about is so powerful when we're out in our own community, if we're walking in our communities. If we're going down, there's a 6-mile greenway in Mecklenburg County, just over the county line, and you can walk this area and just.
And this camp was
called Camp New Providence. It also was called Camp Nathanael Greene, Camp Greene. It didn't, have a name of sorts. There's different names that we've seen.
But we talk about battlefields a lot. Okay, historians love battlefields. How did this battle happen? What uniforms were they wearing? They flanked the main position. They flanked it from this area over at this creek and that sort of thing. What you're talking about is a staging area, a staging encampment for Nathanael Greene that you have identified in a pivotal moment in the Revolutionary War.
That's where the momentum came from.
That's right. That's right.
I think about these are soldiers, patriots, farmers who were human, and what we focus on within the battles, and rightly so, are that performative aspect of war, and yet our soldiers here, we have to recognize that they were human beings and needed rest too.
That's right.
And so encampments don't get that same sort of
recognition. It's a pivotal moment. It's a important one. It's again the recharge. It's where everybody comes together and really, builds on each other as far as getting ready to go out into battle, into war. It's not a glorious thing whatsoever, but it's where the strength comes from.
Sure.
That's a really good way to say it. It's where we provided our natural resources, our farmers provided the strength and energy,
the momentum to
get that momentum for Battle of Cowpens. Yeah, and that's something again that we want to start uniquely sharing. That is something very unique for our community in the Marvin community. We're such a transitional space right now, and as far as a community, we've got a lot of newcomers in our community, which is a wonderful thing. We want to make sure that they understand that there's reasons why they're attracted to our community, and this is just one additional thing that they can be really proud of.
From y'all's standpoint, what are your goals as the Marvin Historical Society?
So one of them, for instance, is just really educating landowners on any type of historical significance that may have happened along the way, such as, encampments, any type of stories. We really want to preserve as much as possible with the memories, because it's really all about passing down your knowledge. So we would like to share the knowledge with any local residents in the area as far as possible burial sites.
I mean, when you think about the people who, the soldiers who were coming back from Battle of Kings Mountain, some of the descriptions that we do have around Camp New Providence were that people were sick, people were injured. I mean, they just came back from a battle. They're shuffling back, they're needing that restoration. And if you have 2,600 soldiers... Yeah,
disease is
widespread.
Smallpox.
The diaries that were, and the journals that we're reading shared that just there was a lack of provision. So one can only imagine how many people died.
Where are you finding these diaries at?
We are so grateful for William Lee Anderson, who was the person who, back 20 years ago, advocated for a historical marker. And he has a great website. It's elehistory.com. I don't know what that actually stands for. I wonder if it's elementary history. It's like he has his own curriculum of sorts that he has created around the Revolutionary War. And he was documenting the troops' movements. And so he has a great amount of information online about Camp New Providence, to the point that he felt compelled to ensure that we had a historical marker on Providence Road, where Providence Road and 6 Mile Creek meet, where the Union County, Mecklenburg County line meets. Yeah. But if you're driving too fast, you're going to miss it. So there's just a rich amount of information that he gathered that includes things like there being a need for a burial ground.
Yeah.
So as far as mission and strategy within Marvin Historical Society, part of what we're wanting to even share with our state historic preservation office is that idea of, well, it says here that there's a burial ground. And if we think about, I'm going to put my public health hat on, if we think about diseases and what did people know in the late 1700s about diseases and sanitation and hygiene, could they have known about that sort of germ theory? Hadn't come out totally yet, but miasma theory was they understood that there was something in the water. Stagnant water was not something that would be helpful to drink. My thought there would be, well, would they have known to bury south of where they were drinking the 6 Mile Creek water?
Downstream.
They would want to bury downstream. And downstream 6 Mile is our community. So we've done a great job, many of our members, of advocating to the state for the significance of our community now on any sort of undeveloped land. We need to have archaeological investigation and ground penetrating radar surveys when it's appropriate, to ensure that if there's any remnants of history still on this undeveloped land by 6 Mile Creek, it would behoove us and it would benefit us to know what could be there as it relates to the Revolutionary War and the encampment there.
I mean, when you have up to 2,600 soldiers, you have to be, spread out somewhat. And I'm sure that a lot of the sick and anybody that was ill was definitely moved and shifted down south of the stream. And that's where a theory of a lot of possible soldiers would be buried is along 6 Mile Creek.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good stuff right there.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about replaying history or going back in time, and then you go, okay, well, I'm at this creek or whatever, and then you realize, talking to y'all, and go, it's not just any creek. This is an important creek.
It's an important creek in many ways. We're, again, grateful for the historians who have documented things prior to us discovering it. We're discovering it. We want to promote what we are learning, specifically to our community members. But other people that we're grateful to who have provided us with information would be Louise Pettis, who has archives in Winthrop University. She's since passed, but she wrote about the 6 Mile Creek Presbyterian congregation that was stationed in between Old Waxhaw Presbyterian and Providence Presbyterian. It was in between at that time during the the Revolutionary War. It would have been around 1780, 1790 when these were. It would have been 6 Mile Creek. There's records that she has written down around more about the 6 Mile Creek church congregation. But it mentions even that was the state line before the state line was drawn, that was just thought of 6 Mile Creek at a certain segment, which is our community. That was where they, otherwise just thought of that being North Carolina's on one side, South Carolina's on the other side. So it's neat for us to benefit from what other historians have provided, that we can kind of take all of these, gather all of this information to really make sense and make meaning about our own community that we so love. Yeah, I would think that it's lifting up what seem like almost puzzle pieces for another puzzle. For another puzzle, we're gathering these pieces of information that are historically significant for the area that we have, and gathering it together to share that this is also what we call now the Marvin community. So we have church records from York County. Where Marvin community lies is between Mecklenburg County, Indian land, Lancaster County, but very close to what was York County, the York District. This was also sort of the new acquisitions district at that time. But then we're also right at our Marvin community splits where the 35th parallel is, which was at one time thought to be the state line. So we're gathering all these really interesting stories that have to do with North Carolina and South Carolina history.
So is it just education you're trying to do?
It's education.
And preservation of stories.
Yeah.
Preservation of stories,
Yeah.
education.
I think also it's, us educating ourselves as members of a historical society, that citizens can have a voice in this. We don't necessarily need to be experts with a capital E, but we can point to information that already exists, primary and secondary sources, and share that with state historic preservation offices where there are processes in place to preserve land and to ensure that there is archaeological studies done before any sort of development happens. That's where we're
history
finding this.
It's such a puzzle, and I feel like there's pieces just scattered all over, and it's our duty as citizens to pick up that piece and put it together with everybody else. So we're all just coming together with our puzzle pieces to uncover the story of our past and our history. Is the best way I can describe it.
And my next question was, what's your biggest challenge? And as soon as you say that, I go, well, it's putting all the pieces together. But then what do you do with the pieces once you start seeing the picture? What do you do with that?
It's exciting.
Yeah.
It is.
I think what do we do with that information is kind of in a similar way to, Camp New Providence. We're in a very exciting point in the origins of our historical society. It's coming from just, gaps of information and us having the spark of, oh my goodness, it's brand new to us.
Right.
It's brand new information, historical information to us that, a certain amount of people knew, but not a lot. And especially those stories get diluted when you have a host of newcomers moving into our community, which we're grateful that this is happening. It's a wonderful thing to have a growing community. But we lose the historic, these stories could get lost in between. So we're coming into learning a lot of new information about what makes our community so significant, particularly with the Revolutionary War, that to me it's celebrating. These are we're still in shock of the things that we're learning. We're still in sort of like, wow, oh my goodness, that's incredible moments now.
Yeah.
It's so exciting. And it's new to a lot of people who are in our community, because many of us are new. to our community. So it's a rediscovery phase for us.
You have fresh eyes on the history too. Some people get burnt out over, it's like untangling a string that's super difficult. And each one of us will just kind of pull on it and untangle it a little bit more. And then we come together and discover something new and it's just, it's rewarding. Especially to be able to share our excitement and, everything in our discoveries with other people that are local, because then they become interested and intrigued and want to learn more. So I think that there's, it's a great new way to just kind of get more attention to local history and to bring more fresh eyes into it.
This experience that we have as sort of the original members of the Marvin Historical Society, the celebratory and the sort of aha moments that we've been having, we want that for everyone in our community who discovers historical information, that they can appreciate their backyards more when they're just out getting their own respite. They can just sit in that shade of a tree, or they can feel the sun and think about, wow, what happened here 250 years ago. That's incredible to think about.
That's exactly right.
And that it was so pivotal that the freedom that they have, if they are immigrants, if they're green card holders, there's that origin story. They can say, I live where that took place. That's beautiful to think about. So I think if you're asking about the mission that we have, it's about sharing that enthusiasm for history, where again it was lost, and it could have been developed over, and many things may have already been done that. We don't know, but we want to make sure that at this point we want to do our due diligence to ensure that, hey, this spot right here, something happened here. Let's look into it.
So Marvin today, I think you told me earlier that you still have a Waxhaw address, but Marvin today, do you have a center of the community, and is there a museum? Is there a repository?
I'll say the village. There's a village center, which I think a lot of people would recognize as more of a historic village center.
Right.
And gratefully, when we had roundabouts added to our community about 10 years ago, North Carolina DOT had to do their own due diligence and learn about the history before they made an impact, because they were bumping up against some interesting historical buildings. So we're grateful that North Carolina DOT provided that, and that spurred on some of our historic churches in the community to get a determination of eligibility for historical places. We don't have that, but at least it was on the mark, that it was on the radar of the state, to know that before anything happens, we need to do additional due diligence. So
when you go through the countryside and you find places like this, what you realize is that although it might have been a crossroads back 250 years ago with the advent of the railroad and then the interstate systems and all the modern roadways and stuff, these little communities have pretty much just gone the way that they've always gone. Nobody really understands that, and y'all are bringing that to light, and kudos to y'all for doing that. This is one of those communities that probably would not come to light had it not been for y'all to bring this back up to a new generation. So kudos.
Yeah, I mean, Camp New Providence is one. I think another one that would be another interesting encampment story that I guess we could say it's a part of ours is Clem's Branch.
Clem's Branch is huge.
Talk about Clem's Branch for us, if you don't mind, because that would be within proximity of 2-3 miles of Martin community.
Well, and I was going to ask you that. We know about Clem's Branch because of Thomas Sumter and his cadre of warfighters who were refugees from South Carolina. They came up into the Catawba Indian community, were sheltered by the Catawba Indians, given provisions by the Catawbas, and had two encampments after the Battle of Ramsar's Mill. One of them was Clem's Branch, which is one of the bigger ones and one of the most well-known. What you find in these encampments, especially with Thomas Sumter and Francis Marion and all of these others, is they don't want to stay too long in one encampment before they move to another encampment, because as soon as they stay too long, that's when they get ambushed by the British. But the Clem's Branch was huge. This encampment is huge when you think in terms of would you say getting a respite, getting coming together, to kind of huddle to say what's next. Huge places. I'm so excited. I really am excited about this particular encampment, and when people listen to y'all, I know that they get excited too, because the passion comes out in y'all. So we talked a little bit about the Presbyterians. We talked a little bit about Nathanael Greene. We talked about the Patriots that were in this area between the bookends of Kings Mountain and Cowpens, and this was kind of the recouping area for them. What are some other people from this area that you can point to?
Yeah, we can point to maybe not someone who lives specifically in the Marvin community as we understand it today, but in the Lower Providence area, Henry Downs, who was an original signer of the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence that was signed in 1775. That one to me is a really proud one, because we have a lot of neighborhoods that are named Downs.
Yeah,
it's cool. Now we did an episode with Scott Seifert out of Charlotte, a lawyer there who was over that MECDEC area, that MECDEC project, and he's a big advocate for that, and he's great in the way he articulates what he has found. Yeah. So Henry Downs was part of that.
He was a landowner, a large landowner here in the Lower Providence, Mecklenburg, what is now the Marvin community. So if you're driving down Ray Road or Providence Road, you're driving around land that Henry Downs and his family owned. So it's something, again, that we can be proud of, that he was someone who was willing to put his name on this letter that was, obviously infuriated the king.
The MECDEC document, and I know there's some controversy around that, but just the idea of saying, no, we're independent from England. Mm-hmm. Oh, really? And I would think from the king's standpoint, he's like, oh, really?
Oh, really? How dare you? You rebels. You hornet's nest. Some things that we can be proud of is not only the Marvin community, but the town of Weddington, which is also nearby Union County, and also something that Camp New Providence, people of the town of Weddington can also cling on to. Downs had a lot of land in that area too. So yeah, he was a farmer. He was
the Mecklenburg Library describes Mr. Henry Downs as a surveyor. He also served as a tax assessor. And worked with some indigenous people in Mecklenburg County as well. So he was actually Charlotte commissioner when Charlottetown was chosen as the county seat of Mecklenburg.
And at that time, Charlottetown was really a town, and it really only had a few buildings in it.
Yeah.
It did. It had a hospital, and that was part of the reason why Camp New Providence was chosen, because it was 15 miles south of Charlotte, which they knew they had ready access to the hospital if they needed that.
Yeah.
That's cool stuff. So he would have known, for instance, William Richardson Davie, probably, right?
William Richardson Davie was one of the key people who were at Camp New Providence at the time, too.
Right. Just curious, how can people learn about Camp New Providence outside of Marvin Historical Society?
Again, there is a scarcity of information where we can find that. But funny enough, we have found this on an old ABC cartoon from the 1990s called Liberty Kids. And there's an episode called The Conflict in the South. Google it on YouTube. You can find the full episode.
Episode 134.
Episode 134 that visually describes and talks about Nathanael Greene needing to get supplies. There's pictures of the encampment. They talk about how there's nothing but squirrels to eat in their stew, and that there's a sickness going around and injuries. How unfortunate that that's what we have is a cartoon show that actually is pretty historically accurate, Liberty Kids. But you can find that on YouTube. It's called Liberty Kids, and the episode is 134, Conflict in the South.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
We also had our two original landowners in our community were William King and Frederick Ezell. Sir Frederick Ezell, he received Sir Frederick Ezell, that's what the notations say. And William King and his family died of smallpox in the late 1700s, and it's noted that he may be one of the first people, if Union County was a county at the time, which it wasn't, it was a part of Mecklenburg County, but if it was, that he may be the first to be buried in Union County as we know it now. So there's interesting notations there, but the King and the Ezell family have been intertwined in the Marvin community origin story. The Ezells' many descendants still live with us now, and they've been so helpful to us and generous with their information and historically and providing us and pointing us into the right direction. But the heart of our community and the village center rested on the families of the Ezells, the Potts, the Roans, the Robinsons, the Houstons, the Cranes. But I really wanted to point out Sir Frederick Ezell was the real starting point for us in gathering more information, and he was a Revolutionary War soldier as well.
And there are still some descendants of his in the area.
That's right. And we know it because they pronounce Ezell, they say Ezell.
Yeah.
Ezell instead of Ezell. So we've been
Ezell.
corrected, and that's a good thing to make sure that we're pronouncing the name correctly.
All right, well, I got to ask you the question. What does liberty mean to the Marvin Historical Society?
For the Marvin Historical Society, I'll speak for myself. For me, liberty means the freedom, of course, to pursue what I want and what's best for me. It's having the individual freedom and liberty to make decisions for myself and not have to rely on somebody else to make those decisions for myself. But it's just to break free, to be an individual person.
I would say liberty is freedom from fear, to be able to be autonomous, have a self-determination. I mean, what were our patriots doing? They were wanting self-governance. They were wanting to be able to live and establish a family and a community in a way that was different, or they would have stayed where they were, So I think there's a fear of that sort of authoritarianism that they were under. And, good gracious, when you think about that and what they were battling is incredible, because the types of fears that we have in modern day, what my understanding of liberty is, pales in comparison to that, that they were willing to die for that sort of authoritarian, to be relieved of that, and that they were willing to sacrifice something like that is an incredible thing that we don't need to take for granted. I would say that pursuit that they had is we can harness that idea of pursuing something that really matters to us. Mm-hmm. And the things that we can learn from that is full circle. What we want for Marvin Historical Society is we want others to recognize that our community played a real part in creating liberty for our country.
Yeah.
Well, I would imagine as you go along, you're finding something new just about every day, every week, and just uncovering another layer.
It's
just exciting in some ways, but it also brings up some other challenges that you have from the community as it grows around you. So I hope people will get in touch with you and help you with your projects.
Yeah, and we're grateful for being on this podcast so that we can get the word out about the significance of our community.
Yes.
How do they get a hold of you?
They can reach us at info@marvinhistoricalsociety.com. Also, www.marvinhistoricalsociety.com. We're also on Facebook and Instagram, Marvin Historical Society.